While I don't have the actual number, I would venture to guess that 90% of the families I work with have their children in daycare or a daycare style of preschool. I've worked with thousands of families all over the world, so I think it's fair to say that I have a lot of experience when it comes to daycare sleep. So today I want to address a very common question that I receive. How can you help your child sleep well at daycare? I'm going to share 5 tips with you. Hi, I'm Allison Edgety, a pediatric sleep and wellness coach and a mom of 2. I love to help parents find solutions. This is How Long Till Bedtime. Both of my girls started daycare when they were 12 weeks old. When I sent my oldest, Addison, I remember thinking, wow, these ladies have so much experience. They have got to be able to help me teach Addison how to sleep. Oh, silly me. I was so new back then. As a brand new mom, there were 3 big things that I didn't really take into consideration when thinking about sleep at daycare. One, the fact that going to daycare for a child is the equivalent of you or I going to a new job and working all day, or going out with our friends all day and just hanging out with them for an entire day. Both of those are very stimulating and exhausting. 2, typically the care providers have no training in sleep, and babies come to them with all sorts of varying schedules and sleep ability, and they're dealing with a lot of sleep issues over there. And 3, the baby to caretaker ratio is often 4 to 1. So there are a lot of moving pieces and babies during that day. And it was totally unreasonable for me to hope that the care providers would be able to address Addison's sleep struggles with zero guidance from me. So, while all of Addison's care providers were very empathetic to our sleep struggles and they tried their very best to help her with sleep, nothing improved her daycare sleep until we finally sorted out her home sleep and that schedule that went along with that when she was nearly 2 years old. Because I was determined to do everything differently with Ainsley's sleep, I approached daycare much differently the second time around, and her sleep was much smoother at daycare right from the start. Today, I want to share my 5 biggest tips for helping children, babies specifically, sleep better at daycare. Tip number 1. Instead of trying to prepare your baby by having them sleep in a room with lights on or being loud when they're napping, focus on finding your baby's sleep rhythm or their schedule and send them on their first day of daycare as well rested as possible. So here's the reality. Some babies are going to really struggle to learn to sleep in an infant room at daycare where there is sleep happening, there's play happening, there's eating happening. All of these things are happening on different schedules. Like I said, it's kind of like a party is happening in this room. The more sensitive or easily stimulated your baby is, the bigger adjustment that they're going to have to learning how to sleep in this environment. But if your baby is easily stimulated or they are sensitive, having them sleep in a less than ideal sleep environment at home is not going to change that. They are who they are. So I always recommend providing your child with an ideal sleep environment at home, just like all of us should have an ideal sleep environment at home. So if your baby hasn't started daycare yet, in the weeks leading up to their first day, or if your baby has started daycare over the weekends, I want you to provide your baby with a nice, dark, quiet place to nap so that they can get the most restorative sleep possible. This is going to allow them to start their daycare adventure well rested, Or if they're already in daycare, allow them to refill that sleep tank over the weekends so they can go into Monday well rested. All right, tip number 2, give the care providers a sleep schedule for your baby. If your little one is under 5 months and you're still using wake windows, share those wake windows and keep it simple. So, for example, you might tell them that you're going with 90-minute wake windows. So, no matter what length your baby's naps are, you want them to be awake for 90 minutes and then for the care providers to try to put them back down for a nap. If your baby is on a consistent nap schedule, which is what I recommend if they're 5 months or older, then I want you to go to daycare and talk to them about start times for each of those naps. So we can't do it exactly the same way we would at home. So for daycare, I recommend that you give them a 30-minute start window. So let me walk you through an example. Let's say your baby naps at home at 8:45 a.m., 12 p.m., and 4 p.m. I would ask the daycare to try to put your baby down for naps that start somewhere between 8:45 and 9:15 a.m., 12 and 12:30 p.m., and 4 and 4:30 p.m. See how I gave them 30-minute windows there? By giving these start windows of 30 minutes, you're being realistic about the fact that they're managing several babies on different schedules all at the same time, and they're never going to be able to be totally exact about your baby's nap start times. But you're also giving them some guidance so they're not just winging it and you're not expecting them to figure it out. And within those windows, we have your baby's ideal nap schedule. 9 times out of 10, my clients report back to me that their daycare actually really appreciated the guidance and really did make an effort to try to stay within those nap start windows. By providing your child with a fairly consistent nap schedule, both at home and at daycare, you and your baby's care providers are helping your baby's circadian rhythm stay consistent, which can really help with nap quality and nap lengths and keep nights in a good place. So, this is really important when it comes to daycare sleep. All right, on to tip number 3. Rest assured that it is totally okay for care providers to, quote, help your baby get to sleep for their naps. If you listen to episode 65 or 67, you know that I think teaching our babies to fall asleep after being put down awake is key to getting full nights of sleep and to getting those 1 hour plus long naps. But we need to be realistic about what can happen at daycare. Even babies who go down awake really well at home, they're put in their crib awake, they fall asleep beautifully. Even those babies may struggle to go down awake at daycare because while they're in their crib in that daycare room, they can see and hear babies playing, crying, getting their diaper changed. They can hear the care providers talking to the other babies. All of those things are going on around them while they're trying to nap. It's like you or I trying to fall asleep on a couch in the middle of a party. So while I absolutely want you to prioritize putting your baby down awake at home, assure the care providers at daycare that you are totally fine with them assisting your baby if they need a little help to nap. That might be shushing, rocking, rubbing your baby's tummy, chest, back, head, whatever it may be that they need to help them relax and get to sleep. Please know that your baby is so stinking smart that they could totally differentiate how sleep is handled at home versus daycare. Okay, tip number 4. An early bedtime is your friend. I know I say this a lot, but it is so absolutely true if you're dealing with a baby who's learning to nap well at daycare. If your baby isn't napping well at daycare, and maybe even if they are napping pretty well, putting them to bed as early as you can when you get home, particularly if the daycare is a full day daycare, like they're the equivalent of a full work day, is going to be a game changer. I realize that this may limit the time you get to spend with your baby in the evening, And this can add to our parent guilt and can kind of hurt our hearts because we don't feel like we get a ton of time after work with our kids. And I just want to tell you, I have been there. Until my oldest went to kindergarten, I didn't get home until 6 p.m. with my kids from daycare. So I get it. But since I've done this both ways with my girls, one way being not knowing what I was doing with sleep and winging it, and the other being really prioritizing sleep, let me tell you that keeping your child well rested as you allow them to get adjusted to daycare and as we learn how they best operate at daycare is going to really increase your quality time with your child or children. So I really encourage parents to focus on quality time over the quantity of time when you're thinking about time with your child before and after work. I make my case for an early bedtime in episode 1 of this podcast. So if you're not convinced an early bedtime is your jam, I'd encourage you to take a listen to that episode. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about tip number 5. I want you to get mentally prepared for a transition down to one nap that happens too early, ahead of schedule. I don't know why daycares do it. There must be some guidelines that they all receive because I swear 95% of daycares in the United States transition babies down to one midday nap right around 12 months. One day, I'm going to try to petition daycares to stop doing this. But until then, I want to encourage you to keep 2 naps at home until your child is truly ready to drop to just 1 nap. I prefer for the transition to 1 nap to happen between 15 and 18 months. So even if your daycare jumps the gun and transitions your child down to 1 nap at 12 months, try to keep 2 naps at home on the weekends until at least 15 months if you can. Keeping the 2 naps at home is going to help your baby better refill that sleep tank on the weekends so that they can head into Monday well rested. All right, there you have it. Those are my 5 tips for helping babies sleep better at daycare. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, I would love for you to share this with your friends who also have kids in daycare or people who are preparing to send their babies or young children to daycare. Also, if you've been enjoying this podcast, could you do me a huge favor and rate and review it on Apple or Spotify? It would mean the world to me, and it would help us reach more families. All right, I hope you'll join me again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to How Long Till Bedtime. To learn how we can work together to improve your child's sleep, please visit sleepandwellnesscoach.com.